Have you ever sat quietly with yourself and wondered, is there more to life than just getting through the day? More than the routine? More than waking up, working, worrying, sleeping, and doing it all again? If you have, you're not alone. And no, there's nothing wrong with you. That quiet question, that sense of something missing, is not a weakness. It's a gentle nudge from the deeper part of your being. A part that knows joy. A part that remembers peace. A part that's been waiting patiently for you to turn inward. Today, we begin a journey, not outward, toward more possessions or more validation, but inward, toward yourself. Because all that you've been searching for, love, peace, freedom, joy, it's not outside you. It's not in the next job, or the next relationship, or the next achievement. It's within you, right now. It's always been there. We've just forgotten. And this journey, this path, this inner engineering is about remembering. Sadhguru once said, if your body and mind took instructions from you, would you create anxiety or bliss? Suffering or joy? When you hear that, doesn't it stir something inside? We've been taught how to do many things, how to solve problems, how to use our phones, how to follow rules. But we've never been taught how to live in such a way that our joy is not determined by what's happening around us. We were never taught how to truly take charge of the inner world. And so we look outside for everything. For approval. For love. For meaning. But the outside is always changing. What was thrilling yesterday feels empty today. What felt like love turns to hurt. What we thought would fulfill us leaves us more restless than before. And still deep within, there is this longing, this voice that says there's more. There's something deeper. Something real. My friend, that voice is your soul speaking. And if you're here, it means you're listening. That's the beginning of your real transformation. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had a moment of joy that came from nowhere? No reason. No one made it happen. You just felt happy. Maybe you were sitting under a tree, feeling the breeze. Or maybe it was a moment of silence after a busy day. A breath. A smile. A tear. A strange stillness inside. That's the real you. That's who you are beneath the noise. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not even your past. You are the awareness behind all of that. The being behind the doing. The stillness behind the storm. And the more you come in contact with that awareness, the more your life begins to change. Not by force, not by pretending, but naturally. You stop reacting to every little thing. You stop chasing. You stop needing everything to be perfect to feel peace. Because the joy inside you isn't tied to the world anymore. You start to live from the inside out. Sadhguru puts it simply, if you are joyful by your own nature, you will do your best. And that is all that matters. You don't need to force success. You don't need to beg for love. When you are rooted in inner joy, everything you touch begins to blossom. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds beautiful, but how do I get there? How do I stop this overthinking? This stress? This emptiness? And that's a real question, but the answer is simpler than you think. It begins with just one shift, responsibility. Not responsibility in the heavy, burdensome way, but in the empowering way. It means realizing, I am the one who creates my experience. Not my boss. Not my past. Not my partner. Not the government. Me. That realization is not about guilt, it's about freedom. Because if you created your misery, then you can also uncreate it. If your inner world is in your hands, that means your joy is not a lottery, it's a choice. You're not a victim. You're an engineer. An inner engineer. Now, this doesn't mean your life will suddenly become free of problems. No. Life will still throw challenges your way. People will still misunderstand you. Things will still go wrong sometimes. But here's the difference. Those things no longer define you. You become like the ocean, deep, vast, unmoved by the surface waves. And you begin to notice something powerful. When you stop trying to control everything outside, the inside becomes still. That stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is peace. And from that peace, your actions gain a different quality. They're not compulsive. They're conscious. You're not reacting, you're responding. You're not running, you're rooted. This is the essence of inner engineering. It's not about escaping the world. It's about living fully in it, without losing yourself. It's about becoming available to life in a way you never were before. You start to taste food differently. Hear the wind more clearly. Listen to others more deeply. You cry more easily, and laugh more fully. Because you're not numb anymore. You're alive. You're not pretending anymore. You're present. And in that presence, you start to realize, joy isn't something you have. Joy is something you are. You don't need to meditate for 10 years to know this. You just need to become aware, right now. So let's take a moment just to breathe. Feel the air enter your body. Feel your chest rise. Feel the miracle of being alive. You didn't have to earn this breath. It was given. That's grace. And if this moment was given freely, maybe joy was too. Maybe, just maybe, you've been looking everywhere for what's already within you. And this moment of remembering is the beginning, not of a new belief system, not of another self-help method, but the beginning of living from within. And you're not alone in this. Every soul that has longed for truth, every heart that has ached for peace, has walked this path. And you're walking it now. Let this be the chapter where your inner journey begins. Let this be the moment where you stop waiting for joy and start living it. Let your life become a message, not by preaching, but by radiating. A calmness that can't be shaken. A joy that can't be explained. A love that flows without conditions. That is who you are. That is what you're returning to. And that, my friend, is the most powerful journey you will ever take. Sparkles, if this message touched your heart, please subscribe now so we can grow together on this journey of inner transformation. Your support helps us share Sadhguru's wisdom with more seekers like you. Let's walk this path of joy and discovery together. Have you ever stood in a crowd, yet felt completely alone? Or sat in a room full of everything you once dreamed of, yet still felt a quiet emptiness inside? It's something most of us experience, that silent ache, the longing for something more. And here's the truth, you are not broken. You're not lost. You're simply being called inward. You see, in this chapter, Sadhguru invites us to take a radical turn, not into another self-help technique, but into ourselves. Because the real transformation doesn't happen outside. It begins within. Let's talk about this. Sadhguru says something powerful and simple. The only way out is in. Think about that for a moment. We're always looking out there, for answers, for love, for solutions. But the more we chase, the more life feels like a moving target, like trying to grab a cloud with your hands. And yet, what if the very thing you're chasing is already within you? That peace, that freedom, that sense of being whole. It's not in a job title, not in a partner, not in the next gadget or getaway. It's in you. But to find it, we have to pause the chase. We have to turn inward. Sadhguru gives a beautiful metaphor. He says, imagine someone trying to drive a car without knowing anything about how it works, constantly turning the wheel, pressing buttons randomly, wondering why the journey is so difficult. That's how most of us live. We're trying to navigate life without understanding the instrument through which we experience everything, ourselves. We've mastered everything else, devices, systems, science, space travel. But when it comes to our own body, our own mind, our own inner chemistry, most of us are strangers. Let me ask you, when was the last time you just sat with yourself? Not to scroll, not to plan, not to worry, but simply to be? We spend so much time reacting to life that we rarely pause to understand what's actually going on inside. But Sadhguru is saying, if you can take charge of your inner world, your thoughts, your emotions, your energies, then no matter what's happening outside, you remain steady, joyful, and clear. Isn't that what we're all craving? We're taught from childhood how to achieve, how to build careers, follow rules, earn respect. But we're rarely taught how to be at peace with ourselves. We think peace is the absence of problems. But peace is actually the absence of inner conflict. And that can only come when we understand and align our inner world. That's the beginning of what Sadhguru calls inner engineering. Let's make this simple. If someone hands you a supercomputer, the most complex machine on Earth, and you don't know how to use it, it will cause stress, not success. Now realize you are that machine. Your brain, your energy, your emotions, your memory, all powerful tools. But without inner clarity, they run wild. That's why we overthink. That's why we get hurt so easily. That's why we feel anxious, even when everything looks fine on the outside. Because we've never been taught how to sit in the driver's seat of our own life. And that's what this chapter gently points us toward. You don't have to fix the whole world. You don't need to control everyone around you. You only need to take charge of one thing: yourself, your breath, your attention, your response. That's where true power begins. Not in domination, not in more followers or fame, but in the ability to sit still and be joyful, even when the world is noisy. Sadhguru says, if you are in charge of yourself, you decide how to experience life. Not the economy. Not your past. Not someone else's mood. You. Can you feel the freedom in that? Yes, it's a responsibility, but it's also liberation. Because once you know that joy is your own creation, nothing can take it away from you. Let me give you an example. Think of a child playing with a toy. Fully present. Laughing. No thoughts of the past or future. That state, that natural joy, is your true nature. You haven't lost it. It's just been buried under years of conditioning and distraction. Inner engineering is not about becoming something new. It's about returning to that natural state, consciously, joyfully, powerfully. This path is not for escaping the world. It's not about sitting in a cave and chanting for the rest of your life. It's about learning how to be alive, truly alive, in the middle of work, family, traffic, and challenge. To smile from the soul. To breathe with awareness. To move with grace. That's spiritual maturity. So if you're listening to this and wondering, where do I begin? Here's the answer. Begin by noticing. Notice your breath. Notice your thoughts, not to judge them, but to see that they're not you. Notice how easily we get pulled outside, and gently bring your awareness back within. That noticing is the first step to inner freedom. And remember, you are not alone. Every seeker, every mystic, every person who has ever longed for something deeper has walked this path, the path inward. Now it's your turn. You don't need to figure it all out at once. You just need to begin with honesty, with love, with presence. Sadhguru says, if you are willing, the possibility is limitless. So I ask you now, are you willing? Are you willing to sit with yourself, gently, without judgment? Are you willing to trust that peace is not a future achievement, but a present possibility? Are you willing to look inward, not because something is wrong, but because everything you need is already within you? That willingness is the beginning of your awakening. Take this moment now, not to think, but to feel. Close your eyes if you like. Take a breath. Feel the warmth of being alive. And say gently within yourself, I am not broken. I am becoming. Let that truth sink in. Because, my friend, the way out is in. And this journey, this chapter, is only the beginning. Take this moment now, not to think, but to feel. Close your eyes if you like. Take a breath. Feel the warmth of being alive. And say gently within yourself, I am not broken. I am becoming. Let that truth sink in. Because, my friend, the way out is in. And this journey, this chapter, is only the beginning. Type Namaskaram in the comments if this touched you. And subscribe so we can keep walking this sacred path together. This is only the beginning. Do you ever feel like life is rushing past you, like you're on a treadmill that won't slow down? You wake up, check your phone, race through your day, check off your tasks, and yet at the end of it all, there's still this gnawing question. Is this it? In Chapter 3 of Inner Engineering, Sadhguru gently pulls us aside and says, wait, there's more to this life than just surviving. This chapter is about awakening, not in some dramatic, mystical sense, but simply waking up to the beauty of being alive. Sadhguru says something striking in this chapter. Most people live like life is a rehearsal. And it's true. We postpone joy until we get that promotion, until the kids grow up, until we retire. But what if this moment, this breath, is not a rehearsal but the real show? What if you didn't need to earn aliveness, but simply had to recognize it? Let's be honest, how often do we truly feel alive? Not just functioning or performing, but wide awake, aware, grateful, present? This isn't about doing more. It's about being more. Sadhguru calls this a shift in perception, seeing life as it is, not as our mind projects it to be. That shift isn't a miracle. It's a choice we can make every day. Here's a beautiful metaphor Sadhguru shares. He says the human system is like a garden, full of potential. But if you don't tend to it, weeds grow. And our inner world is no different. If we don't cultivate joy, presence, and clarity, worry, stress, and chaos will take root. The good news? You are the gardener. And joy is something you can grow. But let's pause here. Because maybe you're thinking, that sounds nice, but how do I do it? Sadhguru's answer is both simple and profound: awareness. He's not asking us to become monks or meditate for 10 hours. He's asking us to live consciously, to bring our attention to what we're doing, what we're feeling, and how we're being. Because awareness is the light that dissolves confusion. Think of this. Have you ever driven somewhere and realized you don't remember the drive at all? That's how most of us live, asleep at the wheel. But life becomes magical when you wake up to the small things. The warmth of the sun, the rhythm of your breath, the sound of birds, the joy in someone's smile. That's the beginning of aliveness, the joy of simply being here. Sadhguru reminds us, the greatest gift you can give yourself is presence. Not more stuff, not more success, but your own presence, right here, right now. When you're fully here, even washing dishes or sitting in traffic can become a sacred act. Not because the task changes, but because you do. This chapter also invites us to reflect on something deeper. How much of our pain comes not from what's happening, but from our resistance to it? We suffer not because of life, but because we want life to be something else. But when we stop fighting what is and start embracing it with openness, peace naturally arises. Peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of acceptance. Sadhguru says, if your experience of life is happening within you, shouldn't you be in charge of it? What a powerful question. We keep trying to control the world when we can barely control our own mood. But what if we flipped the script? What if we started working within, on our own thoughts, emotions, and reactions, instead of trying to fix the outer world? This is where the heart of inner engineering lies. It's not about creating a perfect life. It's about creating a beautiful inner experience, regardless of the chaos outside. That's freedom. And this chapter gently reminds us that such freedom isn't found in some distant future. It begins with how you meet this moment. Imagine this. You're standing in a storm, but you've built a shelter within. Winds may howl, rain may fall, but inside there is calm. That's the power of inner engineering. It doesn't promise a storm-free life. It promises a steady heart, a joyful core, even when the world feels unstable. Let me ask you something deeply personal. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and felt truly grateful just to be alive? Not for what you've done, not for what you've earned, but just for being. That's what this chapter brings us back to. Not achievement, not performance, but the sacredness of existence itself. There's a story Sadhguru tells about his own awakening. How one afternoon, sitting on a rock, he realized that everything within him had changed, though nothing outside had. That story may sound far off, but the essence of it is already within you. Your joy doesn't depend on anything outside. It depends on your willingness to awaken to what already is. So here's your invitation. Can you take just one moment today to pause and feel the miracle of this breath? Can you look at the sky or a tree or a child's face and feel that quiet joy bubbling up inside you? That's your soul saying, I'm here. I'm alive. And that is enough. Because when you meet life like this, awake, grateful, and open, everything becomes a celebration. Life is not about achieving something. It's about experiencing everything. So today alive, not as a means to an end, but as a sacred dance of awareness. Let go of the pressure to prove, to perform, to perfect. Just be. Just breathe. Just notice the aliveness flowing through you. Because you, my friend, are not here to survive. You are here to feel, to awaken, to rejoice. And this very breath is the doorway. Type Namaskaram in the comments if this message touched you. And subscribe because together, we're not just walking through life. We're waking up to it. Have you ever felt like your mind has a life of its own? You sit down to rest and suddenly thoughts are racing. You try to sleep, but your mind replays every conversation from the day. You want peace, but it feels like your mind is a noisy room you can't escape. Here's the truth. You are not your thoughts. And in this chapter, Sadhguru invites us to take back the keys to our inner peace. Sadhguru says something striking. The mind is a powerful servant, but a terrible master. Just pause with that for a second. Your mind is meant to serve you, to solve, to imagine, to process. But for most people, the roles have reversed. The mind rules, and we obey. Let's gently shift that dynamic, with awareness, not with force. Think of your mind like a wild horse, strong, beautiful, full of energy. But left untamed, it kicks, bolts, and drags you where you don't want to go. Now imagine learning how to hold the reins, to guide it with grace. That's not suppression, it's empowerment. It's learning the art of inner mastery. Sadhguru reminds us that suffering doesn't come from life. It comes from our reaction to life. Two people can face the same storm. One is broken, the other grows stronger. Why? Because of how they use their mind. The mind is not the enemy. It just needs training. Like a muscle, it strengthens with use and alignment. Let's be real. We've all had thoughts we wish we didn't. Fears, regrets, judgments. But Sadhguru teaches, you are the observer, not the storm. Just because a thought passes through doesn't mean you have to attach to it. Freedom begins the moment you realize you can watch your mind without becoming it. Try this. Next time a negative thought comes, instead of pushing it away, just notice it. Breathe. Say quietly within, I see you. And let it pass like a cloud in the sky. No need to chase it. No need to judge it. That's the power of awareness, the beginning of peace. Sadhguru calls it inner engineering for a reason. We engineer our outer world with science and tools. But our inner world, the space where joy, fear, love, and purpose live, that too must be consciously designed. When the mind serves your awareness, life becomes simple. Not easier, but clearer. So how do we begin? By watching. By pausing. By being present. You can start right now. Notice your breath. Notice your body. Notice the space between thoughts. That stillness, that's where you truly live. Sadhguru often laughs when people say, "My mind won't shut up." He says, "Good. It means it's alive." The goal is not to silence your mind by force, but to become so rooted in your being that its noise loses power. Like sitting by a highway and choosing not to follow every car. You're just watching. Calm. Still. Free. And yes, it takes practice. But what else is more worth practicing? We practice worrying without effort. Why not practice peace with intention? Even 5 minutes of sitting quietly, eyes closed, breath steady, can shift the rhythm of your whole day. We live in a time where silence is rare. But silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the absence of noise within. And you can carry that silence into work, into parenting, into traffic. Because it's not about escaping life. It's about experiencing life fully, without drowning in the mental noise. Sadhguru says, if your mind becomes still, you become intensely alive. Read that again. Stillness doesn't dull you, it awakens you. Your senses sharpen. Your joy deepens. You begin to experience life not as stress, but as sacred. Let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you truly felt alive? Not just busy, not just productive, but alive, as if every breath mattered. That aliveness is your birthright. And it begins when you become the master of your own mind. So today, take a moment. Close your eyes. Feel your breath rise and fall. And whisper to yourself, I am not my thoughts. I am the space in which they rise. Let that truth wrap around you like a warm blanket. Let your mind relax in your presence. This is the path of inner engineering. It's not a one-time fix. It's a sacred journey. Not about silencing the mind, but learning how to listen without being ruled. Sadhguru says, if you can create a little space between you and your mind, suddenly joy will burst from within. So are you ready? Type, I am the master of my mind, in the comments if this touched you. And subscribe so we can keep walking this journey together. Because freedom begins within. Have you ever wondered why happiness seems so fleeting? Why one moment you're smiling, and the next you're caught in a wave of restlessness or frustration? It's not because joy is rare, it's because we've tied it to things that are constantly changing. Sadhguru invites us in this chapter to look deeper, to discover a joy that doesn't depend on what's happening outside. Imagine this, you're on a roller coaster. When it climbs, you're thrilled. When it drops, you're terrified. That's how most people live, emotionally up and down, constantly reacting to life's highs and lows. But what if you didn't have to be at the mercy of every twist and turn? What if your inner state could remain steady, joyful, and untouched? Sadhguru reminds us that there is a space within each of us, untouched by success or failure, untouched by praise or blame. A space that simply is. When you begin to connect with this stillness, you become less dependent on circumstances for happiness. You start to be joy rather than seek it. The challenge is that we've been conditioned to believe that joy comes from something. A new relationship, a bigger paycheck, a better body. But Sadhguru flips this on its head. He says, joy is not the result of action. It is the basis of action. In other words, when you're joyful, you do things well, not the other way around. Let's reflect on that. Most of us do things thinking they'll bring happiness. But how often does that really last? You get the job, but soon want a promotion. You find love, but fear losing it. Sadhguru is asking us to change the source. What if you begin in joy and move through life from that fullness? He uses a powerful metaphor. Imagine a lamp that needs no fuel. It burns brightly on its own. That's how your inner self can be, radiant, peaceful, and alive, without needing anything external to light it up. You don't have to earn joy. You simply have to clear the blocks to it. What are those blocks? They're the beliefs, fears, and compulsions that say, I'll only be okay if they love me, if I succeed, if I get what I want. But joy doesn't come from external conditions being met. It comes when you are aligned inwardly, body, mind, energy, emotion. That's the science of inner engineering. You may ask, but how do I live in the world, have goals, love people, and still remain detached? Sadhguru answers with clarity. It's not about cutting off. It's about being involved, but not entangled. Love deeply, work passionately, but don't hand over your inner well-being to anyone or anything. That's real power. When your joy is not based on someone else's behavior. When your peace doesn't shatter with one piece of bad news, then you're no longer just surviving. You're living with mastery. You become the source, not the seeker. Think of it like the sun. Whether clouds cover it or not, the sun is still shining. In the same way, when you anchor yourself in your inner joy, outer events may come and go, but your light remains. That's the beauty of turning inward. You don't wait for good days. You create them from within. Sadhguru often says, the quality of your life is determined by how you experience it, not what you have. So how do we upgrade our experience? Not by changing everything outside, but by aligning our inside. That means becoming aware, conscious, intentional. So take a moment today. Not to chase something, not to fix someone, but to simply sit and feel the aliveness within you. That gentle pulse, that breath, that awareness. This is your starting point. And if you can be joyful here, you can be joyful anywhere. This is not about denial. Life will still have its waves. But when your anchor is within, the storm doesn't drown you. It passes. And you remain. Not cold, not numb, but clear, rooted, and awake. So, are you ready to stop outsourcing your happiness? To begin living from a place of joy? Not fear, not lack, not need, but fullness? You don't need perfect conditions. You only need to turn inward. As Sadhguru says, if your inner nature is joyful, your actions will be of a different quality altogether. So today, choose to start with joy. And let that joy overflow into your words, your work, your walk. Type, I am the source in the comments if this touched you. And don't forget to subscribe. We're walking this sacred path together. This is not the end. This is your beginning. Have you ever felt like you're wearing a mask, smiling on the outside, but unsure or anxious within? Sadhguru starts this chapter by pointing out something many of us overlook. Most people are acting out life, not living it. We've been taught to behave, not to be. And this is where our suffering begins, the gap between our outer image and inner truth. From a young age, we are trained to fit in, to get approval, to meet expectations, to be nice. But in this pursuit, we often forget ourselves. We lose touch with the raw aliveness within. Sadhguru gently calls us back to authenticity, not rebellion, but realness. Not just acting spiritual, but actually being aware. He says, to be spiritual is not to do something. It is to see things the way they are. Imagine walking through life without filters, no masks, no layers of fear or desire. Just a clear, awake perception of life. That's not some mystical far-off state. It's our natural state, buried under the clutter we've picked up. We spend so much energy trying to be someone better, smarter, more lovable. But the irony is, real transformation doesn't happen by adding layers. It happens by peeling them away. Like cleaning a dusty mirror, we simply uncover what's already there, a vibrant, joyful self. Sadhguru says the key is to be in touch with the life within you. Not your thoughts, not your roles, not even your emotions, but the sheer experience of being alive. That aliveness is not something you need to create. It's already happening. You just need to become conscious of it. He compares our inner being to a seed. The seed has everything it needs to become a full tree, but it needs the right conditions to grow. Similarly, you have the potential for joy, clarity, and grace. But you must nurture the right atmosphere within, through awareness, balance, and stillness. But what blocks that growth? Our constant need to control, to define, to label. We're always trying to box life, calling things good or bad, right or wrong, mine or not mine. This mental rigidity is like placing a lid on the seed. It can't sprout in confinement. The freedom Sadhguru speaks of isn't lawlessness. It's inner spaciousness. It's the ability to respond consciously, rather than react compulsively. When you begin to see your patterns, your triggers, your masks, not with judgment, but with clarity, you begin to reclaim your life. Think of a dancer completely lost in the rhythm, not performing, but being the dance. That's the invitation here. To stop performing for the world and start aligning with your inner rhythm. To let life move through you, rather than trying to control every step. This doesn't mean abandoning your goals or roles. It means showing up to them with authenticity. Whether you're a parent, an employee, an artist, when you are rooted inwardly, your actions become powerful, graceful, and free of anxiety. Sadhguru reminds us, if you are joyful by your own nature, then everything that you do will be of a certain quality. That's not theory, it's practical. When you operate from inner joy, your work flows better, your relationships deepen, and even your challenges become manageable. So, how do you get there? Start by simply sitting still for a few minutes each day. Not to think, not to plan, but to just be. Feel your breath. Sense your presence. This tiny shift, repeated daily, starts to reconnect you to your essence. There's no need to chase enlightenment. The first step is honesty, with yourself. Notice when you're acting, when you're afraid, when you're clinging. Not to shame yourself, but to become free. Awareness is the first act of liberation. So here's the question. Are you ready to stop living as an actor in your own life story? Are you ready to meet life directly, naked and real? Without the layers? The path isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming fully you. As Sadhguru says, this is not about looking up or looking down. This is about looking inward. When you turn inward, you stop begging for peace and start radiating it. You stop needing joy and start becoming it. Type, "I choose to be real," in the comments if this touched you. And don't forget to subscribe. We're walking this sacred path together. This is not the end. This is your beginning. Have you ever wondered why even when things are going well on the outside, you can still feel restless within? Sadhguru opens this chapter by asking us to reflect on a crucial question. Are you really the one steering your life, or are you just a passenger? Most of us are driven by compulsions, habits, and external pressures. We often mistake comfort for fulfillment. We chase security, recognition, and pleasure, thinking these will bring lasting peace. But Sadhguru says, true joy is not found in accumulation. It's found in alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are aligned with your inner nature, a natural bliss emerges. He reminds us that the quality of our life doesn't depend on what we have, but on how we are within. You can live in a palace and still be miserable, or live simply and be utterly joyful. Joy is not an outcome, it's a way of being. And it begins by turning inward. Most of us wait for the world to give us permission to be happy, for someone to love us, for success to arrive, for a problem to go away. But that keeps our well-being in the hands of the unpredictable. Sadhguru offers a radical truth. Joy can be unconditional. It can be your default state. But how do you reach that state? Through inner engineering. It's not about controlling life. It's about creating clarity within. Meditation, breath awareness, and yogic practices aren't religious. They are tools to help you build an inner foundation that doesn't collapse when life shakes. Sadhguru speaks about the importance of becoming conscious of your compulsions. Whether it's anger, anxiety, or addiction, these are not your enemies. They are signals. When you become aware of them without judgment, you can begin to release their hold on you. Freedom doesn't come from escaping life. It comes from mastering how you respond to it. When you are no longer a slave to situations or emotions, you begin to experience life with a new depth. Not as a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Sadhguru says, responsibility is not burden, it is your ability to respond. When you stop blaming circumstances and start owning your experience, you reclaim your power. You stop reacting, and you start living consciously. This shift doesn't need a dramatic external change. It begins in small, silent moments. Choosing awareness over autopilot, choosing stillness over noise, choosing intention over reaction. These moments become your path to liberation. The more you practice, the more your inner clarity becomes a light that guides every aspect of your life. Relationships deepen, creativity blossoms, and even challenges become opportunities. You are no longer surviving, you are living fully. Sadhguru reminds us, the most beautiful moments in life are moments when you are expressing your joy, not when you are seeking it. So why wait? The source of joy is already within you. It just needs your attention. Sit quietly for a few minutes today. Breathe. Notice. Feel. Let that stillness expand. With each breath, you return to yourself, not to who the world expects you to be, but to who you truly are. You are not broken. You are not lacking. You are life in its purest form, waiting to be experienced. And once you taste that, even for a moment, it changes everything. So ask yourself, am I ready to stop surviving and start truly living? Am I willing to take the inner journey? If yes, then you've already taken the first step. As Sadhguru beautifully says, if you make the necessary effort, the highest possibility is open to every human being. Type, I choose joy within, in the comments if you're ready to walk this path. And don't forget to subscribe. We're awakening together. This is not the end. This is your awakening. Have you ever tried to fix the world around you, hoping that would bring peace within? In Chapter 8, Sadhguru flips that idea on its head. He begins by reminding us that the only space we truly have control over is within ourselves. And the moment we stop trying to fix the outside and turn inward, transformation begins. We've been conditioned to believe that if we change our job, our partner, or our surroundings, we'll finally be happy. But Sadhguru says lasting joy comes not from altering the external, but from mastering the internal. The world is not the problem. Our reactions to it are. He gives the example of two people in the same situation. One is miserable, the other at peace. The difference? Not circumstance, but perception. When we take charge of our inner chemistry, we stop being victims of the environment and become creators of our experience. Sadhguru urges us to recognize that our inner state is our responsibility. Just as we care for our homes or bodies, we must care for our inner well-being. This doesn't mean controlling every thought. It means observing them without being caught in their drama. He explains that freedom doesn't come from running away from life, but from seeing it clearly. Like cleaning a fogged-up window, the clearer our perception, the more peaceful our experience. Spirituality isn't escape, it's clarity. What does it take to live this way? Awareness, says Sadhguru. Becoming conscious of your breath, your reactions, your choices. Noticing the little triggers that pull you out of peace. It's a daily practice, not a one-time revelation. Imagine sitting by a river, watching leaves float by. That's how Sadhguru invites us to observe our thoughts. Not judging, not clinging, just noticing. When we stop identifying with every emotion, we become steady like the riverbed, not tossed about by the current. In this chapter, the message is simple but powerful. The only place real change happens is within. If we want a better world, we must begin with a better self. When we glow from the inside, our light naturally touches others. So instead of blaming the world or running from it, let's begin to master the only space that's truly ours, our inner world. This is where joy is born, and where true transformation begins. As Sadhguru says, the world does not need fixing. You do. And that's not criticism, it's the greatest empowerment. Because once you realize that joy is within your reach, no one and nothing can take it away. Type, I take charge of my inner world, in the comments if this chapter resonated with you. And don't forget to subscribe, more light is coming your way. There comes a point in every sincere seeker's journey when external achievements no longer satisfy. You might have chased success, affection, even spiritual experiences, but something still feels unfinished. In this chapter, Sadhguru gently leads us to confront the deepest root of our discontent, our misunderstanding of what freedom truly means. We've been taught that freedom is about doing whatever we want. But Sadhguru says, real freedom isn't the ability to act without limits. It's the ability to live without compulsions. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are no longer driven by unconscious patterns, that's when true liberation begins. Most of us live as prisoners of our own mind, replaying old memories, reacting to others, carrying invisible baggage from the past. Sadhguru reminds us, what happened yesterday is not your enemy, unless you let it rule today. Liberation is not about fighting the past, but rising above its grip. He introduces the concept of inner stillness, not as the absence of thought, but as the presence of awareness. When your inner space is uncluttered, you begin to see with clarity. You no longer live in reaction. You respond with purpose and love. Freedom isn't a peak moment, it's a daily discipline. Sadhguru shares that every time you choose awareness over habit, grace over judgment, presence over distraction, you are stepping closer to freedom. And with each step, joy arises, not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer enslaved by it. The human system, Sadhguru explains, is capable of immense refinement. You are not fixed, you are fluid. Through inner work, your very perception of life can shift. What once irritated you may begin to amuse you. What once frightened you may now empower you. In this freedom, Sadhguru assures us love blooms. Not the needy, clinging kind, but a boundless love that arises from fullness, not lack. When you are no longer a slave to fear, you are free to give without condition, to serve without ego, to live without defense. But he warns, this path is not without resistance. The mind will rebel. Old habits will whisper. Ego will demand attention. That's okay. Transformation is not about denying these parts of you. It's about holding them in awareness until they dissolve on their own. Sadhguru compares the mind to a mirror. If it's dusty, it distorts. But if you clean it, gently, consistently, it reflects truth. Your job is not to shatter the mind, but to purify it. This clarity is what creates true freedom, the kind that nothing external can take away. Freedom, he says, is not isolation. It's not detachment. It's intimacy with life without ownership. It's dancing in the world without getting tangled in it. It's being in love with everything, but bound to nothing. So how do we begin to live this freedom? Start by watching. Watching your reactions, your speech, your triggers. Not with shame, but with curiosity. You are not your thoughts. You are the light that sees them. And that light is your power. Sadhguru speaks of the joy that arises when your inner world becomes still, not forced, but naturally calm. In this stillness, intuition awakens. Beauty reveals itself. The same life that once felt chaotic becomes poetic. He says, when you are no longer compelled to do anything, only then can you choose everything. That's the essence of spiritual freedom. Not escape, but choice. Not withdrawal, but sovereignty over your own inner climate. Let this chapter be a gentle call to unshackle yourself. You don't need to wait for the perfect environment, the ideal conditions. The key to your freedom has always been within. Today can be the day you pick it up. And remember Sadhguru's words. Freedom is not a goal. It's your original nature. Type, I choose freedom, in the comments if this speaks to you. And don't forget to subscribe, because each chapter brings you closer to the truth of who you are. What if joy wasn't something you pursued, but something you allowed? In this final chapter, Sadhguru invites us to look beyond striving and effort, into the natural bliss that arises when we stop resisting life. He reminds us that joy is not a destination. It's the very fabric of life when we're in alignment with its flow. From the moment we're born, we're conditioned to chase after things, success, love, approval. But this chasing often leaves us anxious and empty. Sadhguru challenges us to turn inward. He says, if you're constantly in pursuit, you'll miss what's already here. Joy isn't out there. It's inside, buried beneath layers of striving. He explains that our true nature is not restlessness or dissatisfaction, but peace. And peace is the soil from which joy grows. When you're no longer trying to become something or someone, you fall into your natural state, and that state is joy. Sadhguru uses a simple metaphor. The sky is always blue, even on cloudy days. Joy is like that blue sky, always present, even when our thoughts, emotions, and problems cloud it over. The spiritual path isn't about creating joy. It's about removing the clouds. He emphasizes that no technique can bring joy unless you are willing to drop your resistance. This is the essence of inner engineering. Not changing the world, but changing the way you relate to it. When you stop fighting with reality, peace and joy arise naturally. Sadhguru asks, can you sit here and simply be joyful for no reason? If you can't, he says, then all your achievements are hollow. The real success is not in what you do, but in how you are. Joyful for no reason, content without condition. This is the mastery of life. Many people wait for the perfect moment to feel good, after a promotion, a relationship, a breakthrough. But this delay is self-inflicted. Sadhguru teaches that joy is not an outcome. It is a choice. And that choice can be made right now. He explains that joy and gratitude go hand in hand. When you are truly joyful, you naturally feel grateful. And when you're grateful, joy deepens. It's a beautiful cycle, one that doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on inner clarity. In the end, he returns to the body as a doorway. Through breath, posture, and awareness, we can unlock states of being that are far beyond emotion. Joy becomes a constant companion, not an emotion, but a presence. So what does it mean to live joyfully? It means to live in alignment with life's intelligence. To stop interfering and simply allow life to happen through you. To be an open channel for grace, peace, and wonder. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence. You may stumble, feel pain, face challenge. But if joy is your foundation, nothing can truly shake you. You become stable, rooted, and radiant from within. Sadhguru closes the chapter with a call. Don't wait for life to hand you joy. Create the conditions within for it to flourish. Practice daily. Live consciously. And know that what you seek is not elsewhere. It has always been you. You are not broken. You are not lacking. You are simply unaware of the vast joy that lies dormant within. Wake up to it. Let this be the chapter where your real life begins. As you breathe, as you walk, as you work, do it in joy. Make joy the background music of your life. Let every step be a dance, every word a song. As Sadhguru says, joy is not the end. Joy is the beginning. Type, I choose joy in the comments if you're ready to live from that place. And don't forget to subscribe. The journey never ends, it only deepens. Throughout the 10 chapters of Inner Engineering, A Yogi's Guide to Joy, Sadhguru offers us not just ideas and reflections, but practices, sadhanas, that serve as tools for inner transformation. These are not religious rituals, but methods to sharpen awareness, discipline the body, refine the mind, and open the heart. This chapter gathers each of these sacred steps in one place, so you can return to them as your spiritual foundation. Begin where you are. Repeat what calls to you. Let this be your living path. Chapter 1. Who are you really? Sadhana. Sit silently for 10 minutes daily and simply ask yourself, who am I? Don't try to answer. Just observe what arises. This is not an intellectual exercise, but an inner turning. Chapter 2. How to be free within. Sadhana. Every morning, sit in a comfortable posture and breathe consciously for 5 minutes. Inhale deeply, exhale fully. As you breathe, feel each breath dissolve your mental boundaries. Just for those minutes, drop all labels. Chapter 3. How to discover the joy of being alive. Sadhana. Take a conscious walk every evening for 15 minutes. Walk slowly and feel each step, each breeze, each sound. This walking is not for fitness, but for presence. Let life in. Chapter 4. Rewriting your inner software. Sadhana. For 21 days, choose one reaction, anger, irritation, defensiveness, and pause each time it arises. In that pause, take one deep breath and smile inwardly. This rewrites your response blueprint. Chapter 5. The Science of Inner Balance. Sadhana. Practice Nadi Shuddhi, alternate nostril breathing, every morning for 5 minutes. This balances the energy channels and prepares the system for calm alertness. Note, learn the correct method before beginning. Chapter 6. Engineering yourself from within. Sadhana. Spend 10 minutes each day in gratitude. Sit quietly and bring to mind 3 things you are deeply grateful for. Feel it, don't just think it. Gratitude realigns your inner chemistry. Chapter 7. Going beyond the mind. Sadhana. Sit with your eyes closed for 15 minutes daily and observe your thoughts without judgment. Don't control or suppress. Just watch. The mind quiets down when you stop feeding it. Chapter 8. The Power of Sadhana. Sadhana. Choose any one spiritual practice, breathwork, mantra, conscious movement, and do it daily for 40 days without a break. This is a commitment to consistency. Let it shape your inner soil. Chapter 9. Moving from reaction to response. Sadhana. Before reacting to anything emotionally charged, place your hand on your chest and take 3 conscious breaths. Then respond. This reconnects you with awareness before action. Chapter 10. The Power of Being Still. Sadhana. Every night, sit in stillness for 10 minutes before bed. No distractions. Just sit. Let the day dissolve. Embrace the silence. This cultivates inner stillness and prepares you for restful awareness. Sadhana is your soul's discipline. Not to become someone else, but to become more deeply you. Return to these practices. Let them be your rhythm, your ritual, your offering to life. Even small, sincere steps awaken the sacred within. Type, I embrace sadhana, in the comments if you're ready to walk this sacred path. Don't forget to subscribe. More light and guidance is on the way.